We're good to go.
All right, thank you, Brendan. And welcome everybody to the April 12th, 2023 full board meeting of Manhattan Community Board 6. My name is Kyle Thide and I'm the chair of CB6. This meeting is called to order at 7:01 p.m. And tonight we are joined by Secretary Steve O, District Manager Jesus Perez, and Assistant District Manager Brendan Berth. As a reminder to everyone, New York state law now requires that all of us have our screens on for the entirety of the meeting, from the time the meeting is called to order until the time the meeting is adjourned. If your camera is not on and your name not properly displayed, you cannot count towards quorum. To conduct an efficient meeting tonight, let's observe a few ground rules. First, no one may speak until granted the floor. Please first raise your hand through Zoom and wait for the chair to recognize you. Then you can unmute and make your comment. The chat function should not be used for CB6 business or questions about agenda topics. All such remarks should be made on the record by first raising your hand through Zoom. Chat should only be used to alert us to any technical difficulties you are having or to state in writing information such as an email address or link that was already stated aloud on the record during the meeting. To the members of the public, if you wish to give remarks tonight during the public session and have not already registered by filling out the form on the CB6 website ahead of time, you can register to speak in the public session by using the Q&A feature of Zoom and posting your name, affiliation, and the specific topic you wish to speak about. This must be completed by 7:15 p.m. All right, so the agenda for tonight's meeting was distributed ahead of time by the board office, was posted online, and appears on the screen before you. If there is no objection, we will adopt the agenda as stated. So board members, if you object to the adopting the agenda, please raise your hand through Zoom. All right, seeing no objections, the agenda for tonight's meeting is adopted. The secretary will now take attendance by roll call.
We will now take attendance by roll call. Board members, you can unmute yourselves and answer present when your name is called. Majed Abdul Samad.
Present.
Kyle Thide.
Present.
Neil Barclay.
Present.
Martin Barrett.
Present.
Elvie Barroso.
Present.
Clara Brennan. Jim Collins. Jonathan Derrico.
Present.
Stu Desser.
Present.
Michael Devereaux.
Present.
Beatrice Disman.
Present.
Jason Fromowitz.
Present.
Eric Goldberg.
Present.
Adam Harkey.
Present. Let's go Mets.
Sadie Howard. Paige Judge.
Present.
John Keller.
Present.
Nadine Kilani.
Present.
Abigail Cruzmark. Sandra, oh, okay. Abigail Cruzmark, marking you as present. Sandra Leftoff.
Present.
Jason Littman.
Present.
Anton Mulliner.
Present.
Sandra McKee.
Present.
Richard Mintz.
Present.
Rajesh Nayar.
Present.
Kevin O'Keefe.
I'm present.
Rashma Patel. Matt Roberts.
Present.
Larry Shire.
Present.
Ann Seligman.
Here.
Lou Supersky. Sandra Sherrod. Aisha Siddiqui.
Present.
Letty Simon.
Present.
Hannah Singelman.
Present.
Susan Steinberg. Mark Thompson.
Present, and I saw Reshma was here, but she didn't answer.
Reshma Patel,
Yeah,
Mhm.
I'm here. I'm sorry, my computer froze for that one moment, and so I just logged on from my phone also.
okay, we're marking you as present, Reshma Patel. Gabriel Turzo,
Present.
Brian Van Nieuwenhoven,
Present.
Matthew Weintraub,
Present.
Mara Wong,
Present.
Ronnie White. Okay. 36 in attendance, we have quorum.
Thanks, Steve. And just for the record, Abigail Kusmark is on. I don't know if she's having audio issues, so you can add her. And Claire Brennan is having some technical issues and should be on in a couple minutes.
Okay, marking Claire and Abigail as present.
All right. Thank you very much. All right, so I've asked all of our elected officials to send over their reports so that we can compile them. You can find all of the reports that were submitted on the CB6 website. The link to the reports was disseminated ahead of time to all board members and the general public, and for your convenience can now be found in chat. I will call on each of the elected officials who have RSVP'd so that they can take questions from CB6 members and the public about their pre-submitted reports. Each elected official will have 1 minute to field questions. If there are no questions, we will move on to the next elected official on our list. If an elected official has a time-sensitive matter to report on that didn't make it into their pre-submitted report, they will have 3 minutes to do so. During this part of the meeting, we will also hear from government agency reps who have requested to address the board tonight. All right, and first up, we have Assembly Member Forrest.
Should I just jump into it?
Absolutely.
Awesome. Thanks, Kyle. Love the hat and great
Thank
color coordination with the sweatshirt. Nice to be here with the board. Thanks for having me. I will keep to the rules of not going over the report as submitted, but I'll give you 2 time-sensitive updates around there that I want to share. The first is that we're still obviously working on the budget for New York State. That is due every year on April 1st, although it is not unusual for it to go a few days long. It is unusual for it to go this long. Primarily, the issues that are being discussed are not monetary. They're not budget related, but often a lot of policy ends up being put into the budget. And so we're having lots of conversations around criminal justice and around housing that seem to be the primary issues we're going for. If I were a betting man, I would bet that we'd have a budget next week, and if not the week after, but obviously that's a prediction and anything could change there. Second update is specific piece of policy that I want to share and get any input and questions on, which is part of criminal justice. The big bottleneck in the criminal justice system is the court system. Trials are taking far, far too long. And the part of that Albany most directly controls is the number of judges. And this affects people on any side of the issue. You know, if you're primarily concerned with what's happening in Rikers and people being locked up there for a while, quicker trials help that resolve quicker. If you're primarily concerned with public safety and repeat offenders that have been released, quicker trials actually get to a resolution more rapidly. And so the good news is about 1.5 years ago, New York State increased the number of Supreme Court judges everywhere except Manhattan. And the reason for that is there is a constitutional limit on the number of judges that Manhattan had already hit. We are now actually over if you include acting Supreme Court judges, but with the increases, Bronx and Staten Island have hit that limit as well. I'm carrying a bill, I've introduced a bill called the No Cap Act to eliminate that constitutional limit so that we can actually expand the number of judges and help to bring speedy trials to everyone in New York. That's carried by Senator Hoylman in the Senate and just recently passed the Judiciary Committee there. It is a constitutional amendment, so in order for it to take effect, it'll have to pass the legislature twice, and then it will go out for a vote. And so we'll be talking about it probably for a few years, and we'll love to share information on it then. But now in its early stages, as we're pushing towards passage before June, wanted to share that update with you and know that we'll be sharing more information. And with that, I'll cede the remaining 11 seconds.
Awesome. Thank you, Assemblymember. We have a question. Eric, you have the floor.
Thank you. Just a quick question around state Supreme Court justices, and I may not be familiar with the details, but my understanding is that many state Supreme Court justices reach mandatory retirement age and then stay on as, I don't know the right term, but we continue to pay huge salaries for them to be part-time justices, and we go over the limit that way. Can you just give some color on that? I'm not exactly sure of all the details, but I'm definitely aware that once they reach retirement age, they continue on in some capacity.
There are many
And
that
it
do
seems
get
like
away.
it's a lot of money that we're paying for people to have some strange arrangement. Yeah.
So judges are expensive. The salary for a Supreme Court judge is, I think, $210 a year, but it also includes 2 clerks and other staff. And so the estimate is it can cost the state up to $1 million a year. I'm not familiar with those staying up if they always work part-time or not, but you're right that there can be waivers for people that reach mandatory retirement age. And there's separate bills looking at how we should address that mandatory retirement age, whether that should be moved or changed. All that I'm focused on here is getting us above the limit, which hasn't been raised since the Coolidge administration, even though obviously the needs of Manhattan and the state have increased quite a bit.
All right.
No, that's helpful. And I just urge you to look at the actual number of judges that we're paying for. And if there's a way to think about those judges that are part-time, and seeing how that works with the overall cap. Thank you.
It's a great question. I'll follow up on that. Thank you, Eric.
All right, we have another question from Stu. Stu, you have the floor.
Hi. So DA Bragg's report this month, and this is again in the realm of efficiency, proposes some amendment to CPLA 245. That's about discovery. It gives DAs 3 weeks to produce discovery for somebody who's incarcerated, 5 weeks if they're not incarcerated at the time. Bragg would like, and many DAs would like to extend that time and modify it to say that they don't need to be in full compliance, but substantial compliance. I understand their concerns, of course, that they're overworked and that they've had to drop cases. But on the other hand, it's pretty troubling to say that somebody who is incarcerated has to wait a substantial amount of time. I'm sure Eric will have an opportunity to respond to this later, but it seems to me that we would do better if we made the system more efficient. I mean, we're in a pretty digital age now, and 3 weeks seems like enough time to collect everything for discovery. So I'll just ask if you have any comment on that.
Yeah, I haven't looked at DA Bragg's specific proposal, but I will say that during the testimony that we held up in Albany, the New York Association of DAs testified that they're not advocating for any changes in discovery law anymore versus the amendments that passed recently. They just need the funding to deal with it in order to make it more efficient. And so the governor, I think, I could be wrong on the exact numbers, but I think put in $100 million for discovery software. I know in the assembly, we said, let's do $200 million. Let's make sure that everyone has the tools that are needed in order to do this, and making sure we're funding both the prosecution and the defense, because discovery is about exchanging information. And so both sides need to have the tools. So there is a lot of interest in making sure that the tools are there and that the process is efficient. Proposals go back and forth on any additional changes. And, I fundamentally believe every law should be up for conversation at all, but I haven't seen that specific proposal. And I would generally agree that, we should be funding it and we should be finding efficiencies. And that's the best way to do it versus maybe redoing each of the changes each year.
Thank you.
Thank you, Stu.
All right, and with that, no further questions for you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Enjoy your summer evening.
You as well.
All right, next up, we have Senator Gonzalez.
Hi, everyone. How are you doing? Can you hear me?
Yep, they're all
Great.
good.
Good. Apologies for being a little bit late today. We were actually just at a rally about the budget. And so I'm here because I really want to update you all. I know you're hearing from Assembly Member Forrest. So I'm not sure if you got a little bit more insight into where we are, why we're back in district. But the rally that we just had was about some of, I think, some of the critical budget proposals that are on the table, you know, around public safety. We're discussing that right now, around housing, and around climate, which I think is really urgent, especially for our district, which is waterfront on both the Manhattan side and the Queens side and the Brooklyn side. So as far as updates from our office go, we've been not only fully operational and we've been operating in a 2-3 Broadway, taking cases. Please reach out if you have anything. But in Albany, we've been working on legislation to address the helicopter and seaplane issue, the noise issue through taxes. We've been working on pushing for good cause eviction, which is a bill that will help, especially, you know, our seniors who are struggling to not only keep up with the cost of rent, but those who may be in market rate units who are seeing the cost of rent skyrocket. We've been working on climate with the Bill Public Renewables Act, which was in our one house, and now we're trying to make sure it gets through the finish line in the budget so we can start building renewable energy. My district, we've been overseeing the transition to renewables, especially on the clean side, because Ravenswood is one of the biggest power plants in the entire city. And we're working with Ravenswood to ensure that they're transitioning to wind and to solar and hydro through Hydro Quebec. So we've been involved in those projects. And then we've also been working on tax policy and tax legislation. The last time I believe we presented to this board, we talked about how prior to our one house budget, we had budget hearings. And so we're looking a lot at cybersecurity as an issue for our city and our state. And we've been continuing with that, working with IPS to push our Save Our Data Act to ensure that we are creating the golden standard for cybersecurity in New York State, as well as personal privacy and data protection. So those have been some of our priorities in the last few weeks. We know we have a late budget. That really is a result of three-way negotiations, and right now an inability to come to a consensus with the governor on what some of the most urgent issues are. So I am happy to take any of your feedback, take that back to our leader in the Senate, make sure that it gets back to the governor, and that all of you feel like your voices are heard in this budget process as we see it continue to extend. So with that, I'm going to pause. I see some hands. I don't know if I'm able to just go ahead and call. Okay.
Yeah, so we'll start off with Adam. Adam, you have the floor.
Okay.
Hey, thanks, Kyle. Senator, there was a recent article about Senator Gennardis's bill to reform the environmental review process in New York State, specifically doing away with the level of service as a metric and replacing it with vehicle miles traveled. Personally, I think this is a great idea. Do you know if this will have any movement, this legislative session?
I am not immediately familiar with the bill. I don't think Senator Gennardis has approached your office with a buck slip or essentially for a sponsorship request. But I can definitely, I have a member of my team here, Peyton, who is our community liaison, can bring that up back to our legislative director. Really, what it comes down to right now is if we're talking about passing this through the budget, if it hasn't been in our one house, so that's the version of the budget that just the Senate created.
Oh, sorry, this is independent of the budget.
Okay, so I was going to say, since it's not in that, it's not something likely the reason he has not reached out. And with many senators, we're waiting until after budget to continue passing other pieces of legislation that are going to be addressed outside the budget. So we will not have a sense of momentum around that specific bill until post-budget and until we see if it gets through the relevant committee. So I'm happy to take a look, and once we're, again, at the end of this month, pass the budget, see if we can help push that through committee and then get it done before the end of session.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, next question is from Gabe. Gabe, you have the floor.
Okay, yeah, thank you. Real quick, I just wanted to thank you for showing leadership on the helicopter issue. I know a lot of my neighbors feel very frustrated all the time, and they feel sometimes that the powers that be don't necessarily care. So I just wanted to say a lot of us really appreciate you taking the lead on that.
I appreciate that. And we did some legwork to talk to folks in the district who have been affected by that issue. So if you have, and you have, any input in terms of like your personal anecdotes that we'd like to collect, because as we push this bill, it's really fueled by all of your experiences. So feel free to let Peyton know in the chat. And we'd love to talk to you one-on-one, because we've been, you know, the way I like to do policy is to get like based on our community, right? Based on all of your voices. So you're part of this process and coming along with us. And so, yeah, please let us know if you have like specific stories around that you'd like to share.
All right, and with that, there are no further questions. So
Thank you so much for, sorry, I just really quickly, thank you so much for having me. And I also forgot, we are having a good cause eviction press conference at Waterside Plaza tomorrow. So that's going to be with Assembly Member Epstein. We have, I believe, additional senators joining us. So please, if you are free at 11 a.m. tomorrow at Waterside Plaza, it's important because as much as we want to address the housing crisis and as the governor is pushing to build more housing, we want to make sure that we have tenant protection. So hope you all can make it.
all right, thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Bye, everyone.
Next up, we have Borough President Levine.
Thank you so much, and good evening, CB6. It's great to see you. I am first and foremost here to pay tribute to my amazing team member, Brian Lafferty, who has been serving you as our Borough President Liaison for years, and sadly / happily is transitioning to a new role. At the end of this month, he's going to be leaving our staff, and I think most of you know, joining the staff of, drum roll please, Community Board 6. Brian has been such an amazing team member. He has a long history of work on many components of city government. He comes from a family with a long history of public service, and it's just been a delight to work with him for the last year and a quarter. While I'm sad we're going to be leaving, he'll be leaving our office, I'm thrilled that he's going to remain active here in CB6. So could we have please have a Zoom round of applause for the amazing Brian Lafferty? Awesome. I'm just going to touch on one more point while I have you, which is our initiative to rein in the out of control proliferation of scaffolding in Manhattan and CB6. We've launched a multifaceted plan in partner with great leaders in the city council, including your own Keith Powers, who is carrying a number of really important bills on this. But you see it on the streets. The numbers are stunning. We have over 4,000, technically they're called sidewalk sheds, over 4,000 sheds just in Manhattan. And hundreds we have identified have been in place for longer than 5 years, some longer than 10, a few we have found longer than 15. There's just no defending this. And we have a multifaceted plan I won't detail right now, but we look at local law 11, calling for more flexibility. So it's not a one size fits all every 5-year automatic inspection regime, that depending on the material used, depending on whether there's been a recent major renovation of the facade, that time period could be extended. We've called for the use of drones for inspection, which has a number of advantages. We've called for the city to have the power to step in and actually do the work if buildings are refusing to conduct it themselves, do the facade repairs, and then put a lien on the property to recoup the cost in extreme cases. And there's more to this, but I would love CB6 engaged in this fight, because walking around the board, I see so much scaffolding, and I know this is a concern for all of you here. So that's it for me. Thanks to all of you who've reapplied for community board membership. Interviews are underway. We got almost 1,000 applications borough-wide. Really excited about that. So anyway, I see at least one hand up. Happy to take it if time.
All right, Anne, do you have a question?
Yeah, actually, it's absolutely a follow-up on the shed.
Yeah.
And I am delighted that you are, I noticed the other day, I was coming home last time it rained, and it was like, oh yeah, I can get from the bus stop or the train station like, I don't need an umbrella, right? Like, I just stay under the scaffolding, and which is nice on those days, otherwise not so much. And I looked at some of the information that you had out about the things that you're trying to do. I know that there are dynamics about like how scaffolding is paid for, and it's like cheaper to pay the rent for the scaffolding than it is to pay for the
Yes.
work.
Yes.
So I'm sure you're addressing that. One of the things I didn't see in there, especially, and maybe I just missed it, is that there, it seems like there is a role for the community in saying, hey, this, these sheds have been up for 6 months without any obvious active work. And I wonder if there can be a way to report that through 311, or something like that.
Yeah, so thank you, Ann, for all those comments. First, you described the dynamic quite accurately. There are many buildings that have decided, rather than paying what can be admittedly very large costs for facade repairs, that they're just going to year to year pay for the rent of the sheds. It's unacceptable for the good of the city. Now, there are some buildings that would do the right thing, but they're unable financially to pay for repairs. They're in financial distress. And so for those cases, we have proposed creating a loan fund, a low interest loan fund, so that the work can be done quickly and then the buildings can pay back over time. That we think is a sensible approach. You can currently report problems with sheds to 311, including issues like the lights being burnt out or maintenance problems. But I do like your idea of using the public to kind of crowdsource particularly problem sheds. And I'll talk to the team about how we could put that into practice. But certainly I would say to you, CB6, if you can identify a top list of problem sheds, scaffolding that's been up too long in the board, we'd be willing to do some legwork to identify what's happening with the owners and possibly bring the city in for enforcement if appropriate.
All right. Thank you very much, Borough President. And
Perfect. Thank you.
for sharing.
Thank you, Ann, and thank you, Kyle, and thank you, everyone here. Again, thanks most of all to Brian for his incredible service, and looking forward to working with him and all of you in the years to come. Thanks so much, everybody.
Thank you. And thank you for sharing him with us.
You got it.
All right. Next up, we have Eddie from Council Member Rivera's office.
Hey, good evening, everyone. No updates other than what's on the board report. If you haven't already, please sign up for our East Side Street Tree Survey. You can check that out on our events page on our council website. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Eddie. Are there any questions for Council Member Rivera's office? All right. Seeing none, thank you very much, Eddie. We'll go on to Robin from the mayor's office.
Hi, everybody.
Hey
Good
there.
to see you all, and thank you for having me. I just have a few brief announcements. I think everybody knows that the SYEP, the Summer Youth Employment Program, was extended until the 14th of this month. It's just a couple of days away, but if you have a young person in your neighborhood, your family, who would like to apply for a job, there are about 100,000 positions, and they are available to young people between the ages of 14 and 24. It's a 6-week program. It's a paid program. So please reach out, nyc.gov SYEP. You have, I guess, 2 days. So that's that. Sticking with the summer theme, Summer Rising, which is a very popular academic program over the summer, is launching its website on the 17th of April for registration. They've altered the process somewhat as a result of difficulties some people had navigating. That will be open for 2 weeks. There are in excess of 100,000 spots. So if you know of people who are looking to have that support over the summer, I encourage you to apply. You can always reach out to me if you need help. And I guess everybody heard that the mayor hired a rat czar today. So we'll be out of the rat soon, hopefully. And that's it, unless there are any questions.
Thank you, Robin. We'll definitely be reaching out to you to get the rat czar to come to CB6 to talk about our issues.
It's amazing. She's
I'm
come
sure
from
she's
Department of
over-
Education where she
Yeah.
played that role and has a background in biology. So she sounds like I haven't met her, but she sounds like a good candidate for the job.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much, Robin. Seeing no further questions, we'll move on to Pat Hill from Councilmember Power's office. Pat?
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for having me. I don't have anything to add, but I do want to just emphasize we are having a free bike helmet fitting event, a distribution event as well with Department of Transportation in Stuytown this weekend from 11 a.m. to 2:30 p.m. It's at Playground 9, and we want to make sure as many people come out as possible. So if you need a helmet, come get fitted. But other than that, I don't have any other additional updates. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to take them.
All right, I see a question from Anne. Anne, go ahead. All right, I think Anne's having technical.
Yep. Nope, there it goes. Yeah, hi. I just I wanted to thank Councilmember Powers for his sponsorship of the Choose to Reuse bill, the to encourage restaurants to allow or like make possible reusable containers for takeout. And I'm just kind of curious, it's intro 1003 for anybody. It's brand new, but I'm just kind of curious what the reception has been in the council. I think there's 4 sponsors, but I'm just wondering what's going on with that.
Yeah, I know it's very new and it's in the preliminary stages, as you mentioned. I can check with our legislative team to see, what the pulse has been so far to their experience, and get back to you on that. If and as things unfold with this, I can obviously provide further updates, or hopefully have additional sponsors, and we'll get this pushed through. It is, definitely something we need to focus on in terms of conservation.
Yeah, I think it's a really good step. So yeah, if you could let me know, like if you want to reach out through the board office, or you can reach out directly, whatever is appropriate.
Yeah, I'm gonna put my info in the chat as well as always, and I can connect. But I'll be sure to raise that tomorrow when I'm back in the office with the team.
All right, super. Thank you so much.
Of course.
All right, thank you very much, Pat. Seeing no further questions, we'll move on to our next speaker. We have Eric from District Attorney Bragg's office. I'm sure the district attorney is not busy right now.
Kyle, thank you so much. Appreciate it. Great seeing everyone tonight. Just wanted to mention one really quick thing that did not make it into the report, and that is that our 38th annual New York Crime Victims Candlelight Vigil will actually be taking place next Sunday, April 23rd, from 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. This will be taking place at the West End Collegiate Church on 245 West 77th Street, on the corner of West End Avenue. And it'll basically just be an opportunity from individuals to hear stories from victims and survivors, be able to engage with them, and ultimately provide them a platform to heal with community support. So really looking forward to that, and encouraging anyone who can make it to do so. And then also, I know that's something that's been brought up already. I know Stu mentioned it, but wanted to highlight in our report our discovery reform fact sheet. If anyone wants to learn more or has any questions about that, I'd be happy to answer them. But it basically is a response to what we've seen over the last few years after the reforms, changing the language to prosecutors' offices needing to hand over basically anything that relates to a case, which is very inclusive phrasing. And just if I could really quickly just address Stu's concern, and then obviously happy to take questions afterwards. So in terms of just kind of having the idea of a speedy trial, There are speedy trial timelines and statutes that govern the timeline of trials independently from any discovery. And there are also proceedings and hearings that take place pre-trial. But that being said, I don't think that we're actually advocating for or recommending any extension for the amount of time we would need to disclose any of that information. The three big things that we're recommending are one, requiring that if there are any automatic triggering of a dismissal of cases, that it would be because the actual materials or evidence that was not disclosed would have a prejudicial or a material impact on the case itself. Two, that that the defense and the defense attorney would need to challenge or bring up any discovery objections in a timely manner. And then three, that substantial compliance component, not necessarily requiring us to hand over everything that could potentially have touched or relate to the case, but more the things that are important to assessing from the defense's point of view, and investigating the evidence further on their end. So again, happy to take any questions on that or clarify anything, but I'll hand it back to you, Kyle. Thanks so much.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Eric. I don't see any questions, so we'll move ahead. Thank you.
Cool. Thanks again.
All right, next up, we have Joanna from Assemblymember Epstein's office. Hey, Joanna.
Hello, Kyle. Hello, everyone. I'm Joanna from Assemblymember Harvey Epstein's office. We don't have any updates, but if you have any questions or concerns, feel free to contact me and I will submit my information in the chat. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And seeing no questions for the Assembly member. So we'll move on to Justin from Senator Krueger's office.
Thanks, Kyle. Just one thing to add from our report. Senator Krueger is the chair of the Bipartisan Pro-Choice Legislative Caucus. And in that capacity, she put out a statement yesterday regarding the decision by a Texas judge on FDA approval for mifepristone, which is abortion medication. We also organized a briefing for legislators today with the Attorney General's office to get an update from them about the lay of the land there. And a couple of takeaways from that. One is that it's more important than ever to advance the legislation we already have pending about access to reproductive health care services, both for New Yorkers and for people who are coming to New York from other states to access those services, but also that we don't yet have a full understanding of the implications of this decision because there's various appeals pending. So we should know possibly by the end of this week, possibly by the beginning of next week, what the real impact of this decision is in terms of people's access to mifepristone. And one other thing that came up today is that the Attorney General has a hotline for questions about reproductive health care access, a legal hotline that's available to New Yorkers and to folks coming in from out of state. So I will put the link to that in the chat, and I'll also I'll put in the chat Senator Krueger's statement as well as the legislative priorities for the Bipartisan Pro-Choice Legislative Caucus. You can have a sense of the bills that we're working on in that space. And I'll happy to take any questions.
Thank you very much, Justin. Not seeing any further questions. Appreciate your time.
Thanks.
We'll now move on to our last speaker, Tevin Williams from Congressman Dan Goldman's office.
Thank you so much, Kyle, and thank you everyone for having me tonight. As you know, we just have a few blocks of CB6, but I always like to do my due diligence every time. So thank you to the board and all the public members here. No major updates. I really just wanted to flag that two of the biggest things that the Congress member has been speaking about recently. One of them is just mail theft. If anyone is having any issues with mail theft or mail being stolen from your apartment, please reach out to our office and we will be working with the Attorney General on these issues. And then as summer starts to come upon us, we've had a huge increase of passport requests. Please reach out to us if you need any help with that or need help requesting an appointment for renewing your passport. Other than that, it's always a pleasure to be here tonight with everyone. Everyone have a great evening and thank you again for having me.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Tevin, and thank you for joining us. Seeing no further questions for you. So enjoy the rest of your evening. All right, and actually, last but not least, we have an additional speaker, Harry from Councilmember Menon's office.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Just a few things to highlight, something that's mislabeled actually in our report. Yesterday, Julie introduced a resolution calling upon the state legislature to sign and the governor to pass a bill establishing guidelines for the removal of sidewalk sheds, which I know was mentioned earlier tonight. Because they're staying up way too long once construction is over, and we wanted to make sure that we're making headway on this issue. Also, we hope that many of you could join us tomorrow at 11 o'clock, where Julie will be at a ribbon cutting at Honey Locust Park on 59th Street to commemorate the redesign of the park. And lastly, not mentioned under our participatory budget section of our report, we actually not only got 4,450 votes, but that was actually the most out of any participatory budgeting project for any council member in Manhattan, and the second out of all 29 participating council districts. So we're very excited about that. We thank all of you that help support us in that process, and happy to answer any questions.
Thanks very much, Harry. A lot of participation words. All right, seeing no further questions. Thanks so much, Harry. All right, we'll now move on to the public session. Jesus, has anyone signed up to speak?
There's one person who signed up to speak, Alex Prose, who's a resident of Community District 6 and wishes to speak to the board about concerns within a shelter in this district. All right, Alex Prose, your mic has been enabled. You have 3 minutes for your remarks. You may begin now.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for taking the time. I do want to redact a couple of things because I realize this is a domestic violence shelter and you want to give away the location. But if, there's somebody specifically that can address this issue, I can give you more details. Anyway, so in our community district, there's a domestic violence shelter that I interact with a lot. I know a lot of people there. And it's run by a thing called Acacia Services, which is on the city's watch list for bad nonprofits. And as it turns out in this building, there's a lot of harassment and civil rights violations, criminal behavior, not by the tenants, but rather the staff. So these clients of the DHS are paying anywhere from $5,000 to $10,000 a month through Medicaid and or Medicare, whatever it is. And they are supposed to get certain services and, be treated humanely. But what's happening over and over again is that there are, trades and favors for certain kind of services or like benefits. Certain people are working on the staff have targeted certain clients because of, their lack of willingness to perform certain, acts, if you want to call it. A woman was recently locked out as a retaliatory move. She had her children with her, and they said that she had to go back to PATH for intake, even though that she'd been a member, a permanent tenant of this hotel for longer than 6 months. It's a rent law thing, but even then they weren't allowed to remove her, and the police came to try to bring her back, but they wouldn't let her back in. So she's sitting on the street crying, her 2 kids are there, and this is very traumatizing and displacing. There have been numerous instances of demands for sexual favors by the staff of the building, the DHS, the security staff, in exchange for things like fixing repairs or providing, the services that they're supposed to deliver to the DHS clients. And, I've done a lot. I've called Councilmember Rivera's office. I try to help these people as much as I can, try to write letters and stuff. But it's now I'm trying to implore you guys, the council, to like open an investigation or a task force or whatever it is that we can do to kind of clean up the conditions here. One of the members of the building, of the staff, actually physically assaulted me when I tried to intervene with, something they were doing. So, these people are being treated very poorly. And even though they're homeless or wards of the city, that doesn't mean that like they're second-class citizens or not supposed to be treated, with dignity and respect. So, there's a lot of violence by the staff towards the clients. There's theft by the staff towards the clients. And, I watch this every day from a first-person point of view. And, this is, I don't know, is this the right forum for this? So how can you help us,
Thank you very much, Alexander. Our office will definitely be following up. And if you have been assaulted, I would suggest filing a report with your local police precinct so that, that we have something on the record that we can refer to as well. But thank you for coming tonight. And Jesus?
When we were made aware of Mr. Pro's pre-registered to speak tonight and attached a written copy of his remarks. And so when we read them in advance of this, we reached out to DHS, not giving details about Mr. Pro's or beyond that, but they have told us, DHS, that they are aware of these complaints, and we'll be reaching out to Mr. Pro's if he's willing to share details about which specific staff members, if he happens to know. The DHS is asking, and they are looking to investigate and get to the bottom of this.
All right. Jesus, are there any other speakers?
That concludes the speakers list for tonight. Oh, it looks like Mr. Pro's. Your mic is still enabled?
Is it?
Yes.
Who should I get in contact with? I'm happy to share.
We'll get in contact with you. We have your email when you left it, when you pre-registered.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
All right, so we'll now move to adopt the previous meeting's full board minutes. The minutes from the March 8th full board meeting were distributed to board members ahead of time by the board office. If there is no objection, we will adopt the minutes as drafted. So board members, if you object to adopting the minutes, you may raise your hand through Zoom. Seeing no objections, the minutes from the March 8th full board meetings are adopted. They will soon be available on the CB6 website. All right, we're now at the full chairs report. So first of all, I hope everyone had a very happy Passover and Easter holiday last week. I hope everyone is relaxed and was able to spend time with their family. I do want to remind everyone that last month we did adopt a new set of bylaws, an updated set of bylaws. I just want to make sure that everyone is aware of some of the slight changes that are in that, particularly around attendance. If anyone if anyone is going to be absent for a meeting, you must in advance notify your committee chair and vice chair, who will then decide if you are excused or not. For the full board, of course, that would be myself. So please make sure that you are doing that ahead of time. It helps us ensure that there is quorum for these meetings. And if you do not hear back about excused or not, you shouldn't assume that you are excused or not for any reason. So I just want to make sure that that's highlighted for everybody. Second, we just received, this is new, and we'll be talking with Claire and Anton about this as well. We received our first application for a cannabis dispensary in our district. So we will be discussing that with Bulk and how they will proceed to review such applications. So I wanted to make everyone aware of that as well. And then last but not least, we were also just recently informed by DHS about the opening of a new shelter in our district on the corner of 39th and Lexington. This is a family shelter and will be opened in a couple of months. Now, given that this is the site of a previous shelter that was attempted to be open with, community backlash and also just DHS not following through properly, we'll make sure that everything is up to date with this particular shelter and that we're ensuring public safety as well. As we heard from our public member, there are a lot of issues with shelters and public safety, not just with the public, but internally as well. So we want to make sure that anything that opens in our district is not only effective, but safe as well for everybody. So we will be connecting with DHS and working with the Housing and Homelessness Committee on that as well. And with that, I'll wrap up my report and turn it over to Jesus.
Thank you, Kyle. Yes, so just a quick, a lot of what I was going to say has been mentioned already, so I won't repeat in this interest of time. But I also do want to, we'll formally welcome him next month. But yes, you've heard the news about Brian, and he will be starting next month. And so we're looking forward to having him here in the office and sort of spreading the workload a little bit more evenly, because we've been understaffed. And so a few committees, parks, youth and education, you'll finally have a proper dedicated staff person. You won't just be stuck with me. So we'll go into all those details next month. And Brian, welcome. We look forward to working with you. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Jesus. We'll now move on to our board treasurer, Adam Hartke.
Thanks, Kyle. OMB's budget summary report for our board from April 1st, 2023 shows that our personal service budget for the year is still $237,000, and we have a balance of roughly $89,478, with a little over $147,000 spent or obliged. For OTPS, other than personal service, excluding rent, there are no changes for this month. We have a remaining balance of little over $17,000, with a little over $13,000 spent or obliged. And that concludes my report.
All right, thank you very much, Adam. All right, we've now arrived at our committee reports and resolutions. And as a reminder to everyone, the same rules stated at the beginning of the meeting apply now. And to the members of the public, please note that during this session of the meeting, we only recognize questions from members of the board. The CB6 staff will now post a link to the digital ballot in the chat. Please click on the link or copy and paste it into your browser to open the ballot. Then select your name from the drop-down list and select your vote on each resolution as it is presented. Do not hit submit until later in the meeting after the final resolution has been presented. At the end of the meeting, please submit once you have indicated all your votes on the ballot. You will not be able to submit the ballot unless you vote on every resolution. If you plan on abstaining, please select abstain. And final vote counts will be announced after the second roll call. If any part of our voting procedure is unclear, please raise your hand through Zoom and we will address your question. All right, so once people have that open, we'll turn it over to Housing and Homelessness and Land Use and Waterfront, who had a joint resolution.
Sandy, do you want to speak?
Rich, I'll let you take this one as the author of the resolution.
Fine. So we met together as a joint committee and discussed the housing proposals of the governor, the mayor, and in particular the borough president. We talked about the logic behind the borough president's housing proposal, the units that were likely to be able to be created in our district with a few small changes on both public and private land, and about the proposed upzoning of the west side of 2nd Avenue between around 23rd and 34th, where there's an opportunity across from Kips Bay Plaza, where there's an opportunity to make the density the same on both sides of the street and add a bunch of housing. We put together a resolution in support, which you have, and I guess I will open it to discussion unless, Sandy, there's anything you want to add to that.
No, please follow with any questions that may come up.
All right, are there any questions on 1A? Okay.
Do we call the question?
Okay, yeah, I was gonna end debate anyway and move on to a vote. So we'll move it to a vote. So please go to your digital ballot and mark your vote for 1A. And please do not hit submit yet. And for anyone not using the digital ballot, we will ask for your vote verbally during the second roll call.
Can I give a brief report and then pass it to Sandy?
Sure, yeah, your both of your committees are up next anyway, so if you want to do your report now, just go ahead.
Okay, I mean, I just want to say that the Housing Committee is meeting next week, and we're going to talk about both the new homeless shelter that Kyle referred to, the family shelter, and the state of the budget as we know it then. And we've also got some old business to bring back that we deferred because of this joint meeting with land use this past month. So we will be happy to see you, anyone who can make it. In terms of that shelter, the particular building we're talking about is on the southwest corner of 39th and Lexington. I believe it was the Peter Clipper Hotel back in the olden days, and 20 years ago it was the W Hotel, and it was vacant for several years. Before COVID, it was vacant. So, we're planning to hear from DHS at the meeting on Monday, if they are able to make it, to tell us more, and we'll find out what we can for that meeting. That's all I have.
And yeah, and just as a reminder, just building on that, for those who are unfamiliar, the community board doesn't have a part of the process in citing homeless shelters. So we are informed as any other stakeholder in the community is informed. So that's why we called DHS to our meeting as soon as possible, so that they can answer questions about what this will look like. Okay, and then I'll throw it over to Sandy.
Great, thank you. It was great to have a joint meeting with Housing and Homelessness Committee, as so many of the housing issues really are about land use in our community. And I think we probably will have other meetings in the future, as there are a lot of initiatives coming up for housing, as we mentioned, from multiple levels of government. So we're hoping to continue looking at those initiatives in future meetings. And also at the next meeting, we're planning on having a presentation on the proposed waterfront authority proposal from the Borough President's Office. And this is especially important as the ESCR project advances, and they're starting to open that up potentially to the public. So we'll find out who's going to actually take care of it and how that's going to work. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sandy. All right, we'll now move on to public safety. Matt, go ahead.
All right. So we have a resolution before you. As we've discussed over the past few months, there's been a lot of issues at the New Providence Women's Shelter. We've heard testimony from several stakeholders in the community, except for DHS, which is noted in the resolution. They were unable to join us for 3 consecutive months and have not responded to any of our questions in writing either, nor have they responded to Councilmember Keith Powers. So all of that is summed up in the resolution before you.
All right, thank you very much, Matt. Are there any questions on resolution 4A? Yeah, Sandy, go ahead. Sorry, you're on mute.
Sorry, yeah, I did wonder when the renovation is going to start. I know there's they're going to rebuild the shelter. When is that scheduled already?
I don't have a specific date for that. I don't know if the board office or anybody has that information. Oh, Rich.
That's going to be a full demolition, right?
Right.
Everyone moved out. Yeah, okay.
So it may sort of be a moot point if that is starting very quickly.
Don't think it's imminent. In the sense that, but these are issues impacting us today. Be rectified immediately.
Okay, are there any further questions on 4A? All right, seeing none, I'll end debate and move this to a vote. So please go to your digital ballot and mark your vote for 4A. And again, please do not hit submit just yet. And while people are voting, Matt, do you have any reports or?
No, just to let everybody know that we will be discussing the Borough President's Shed to Shed plan next week in committee. So if you're interested in that, please join us. And that's all I have.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Matt. All right, we'll move on to business affairs and licensing.
Hi, I think Claire is on, but you can only hear her. Claire, are you there? Well, I guess not.
I think she's having tech issues, so take
Yeah.
it.
I know she texted me saying she was going to be speaking but not seen.
Oh,
But in any
hi,
case,
sorry. Hello,
there
can you
she
hear
is.
me? I'm
Yep.
so sorry.
No
Definitely
problem.
can't be seen. I'm sorry, but I'm glad you can hear me. Just really quickly, I guess I'll just introduce Anton and I'll add a little something to the report, but want to thank Anton for chairing the meeting this month because I was unavailable. But I don't know if anyone has any questions for Anton, but he's here and ready. And Anton, you can share any details that you might want to from the meeting.
Thank you, Claire. It was a very short meeting. We only had 2 applications for liquor licenses. Both of them were pretty straightforward. And I would request that we bundle them and take a vote as a committee to approve these. They were both approved by all members of our that were present at the committee meeting last week. There really is no report for this month. As I said, it was very short. There were some internal things we discussed, but not relevant to our discussion here at board level.
All right, thank
Can
you.
we call the question on those
Sandy?
two now?
Sorry, I think Sandy is seconding the motion to bundle.
Yes, and I have a question after,
All right, sure.
but
All
not
right.
about the bundle.
Okay, so we are bundling. Are there any objections to the bundling? All right, seeing none, I'll end debate on this and move to the vote. So please go to your digital ballots and mark your vote for 5A and 5B. And while people are doing that, Sandy, do you want to ask your question?
Yes, I was just wondering if you've heard anything more about open restaurants, if that's moving forward. What do we know what's happening?
Sandy, I haven't heard anything, and I went to the council's calendar for the rest of the year. I didn't see anything on the calendar to discuss this in any of the committees. I continue to follow up, but it seems to be a hot potato that nobody wants to tackle at this point. It's not surprising since there's a lot of controversy about it, but according to the council's own agenda or own timetable, they were supposed to have already approved or recommended how the open restaurant program is supposed to go forward and the types of structures allowed and when they're allowed and what part of the year, and still haven't heard anything. I continue to follow up, but I don't know, maybe I'll try going directly to one of the council people and see if they have anything to say.
Thank you, Anton. And yeah, just to build on that, the last update that I had received was about a month ago. And very similar to what Anton just said, a lot of proposals to sort of to create some stipulations. There's a proposal for seasonal. Some people are against that. Some people are for that. So they're still discussing it. And it's one of those things is just kind of lingering.
Because I wonder if it's something we shouldn't try to be pushing for, because we have a lot of these that are, it's been so many years they've been up there deteriorating. We really need a resolution of what the rules are going to be.
Mm-hmm.
So it would be great if we could get some follow-up. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
We have a representative from the mayor's office listening in. She has noted this down and will let us know if she has any updates on her end in future.
Thank you, Jesus.
Awesome. All right.
Hi, it's Claire again. Sorry. I just want to add to your announcement, Kyle, about the first cannabis license. It is exciting. It's something that we've been preparing for, and John has really taken on the enforcement side of it in the collaboration with my committee and LV's committee. But, I think the board office is going to do some research, and I will too, but we are planning on inviting the applicant to our next meeting. So I would encourage anyone to join us, ask questions, and we'll see how it goes. Just wanted to add that little detail. Thank you.
Thank you, Claire. All right, seeing no further questions for the committee, we'll move on to Health and Human Services. LV.
Hi, good evening, everyone.
We have 3 items in our agenda tomorrow. The first one is a presentation from the NYU Langone about Alzheimer's disease and related dementias family support program. The second one is we are going to continue to discuss the final draft of the RESO on EpiPen and see if it passes the committee. And the third one is a discussion on how we can develop an outreach program for senior citizens in Manhattan Community District 6 in times of crisis. So those are the 3 agendas for tomorrow's meeting. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Elvie. All right, we'll now move on to transportation. And in the spirit of leadership building, we'll have the vice chair, Gabe, lead the meeting. And Brian, do you want to preface anything or?
Nope, Gabe, go right ahead.
Okay, so we have a couple items before the board this evening. The first is we passed in committee a no objection to co-naming the northeast corner of East 23rd Street and 3rd Avenue for the School of Visual Arts. The co-naming policy is pretty straightforward. They're longstanding significant cultural contributor or economic or educational contributor to the neighborhood, and they sort of check all those boxes. They came to us and asked for that, and we passed a resolution of no objection. I don't know, do you want to do these one at a time?
Yeah, we'll do them one at a time. So are there any questions on 7A? All right, seeing none, I'll end debate on that and we'll move to a vote. So please go to your digital ballot and mark your vote for 7A. All right, and while people are doing that, Gabe, feel free to start on 7B.
Okay, sure. So 7B, we probably all remember when a car drove into the New Wave Pier, caused quite a bit of damage. Upon subsequent research, it turned out that a car on the service road could drive right into the pier with no physical obstruction. So we passed a resolution in committee asking for a physical barrier to prevent cars from driving onto the New Wave Pier. We kind of left the design up to DOT, for emergency access, cleaning up refuse, that sort of thing. But the current state of affairs, it's not just a theoretical risk, it's a very real risk. So we believe there needs to be some sort of physical barrier there to keep cars out of that park. So that's what this is.
All right, thank you very much, Gabe. Are there any questions on 7B? All right, seeing none, we'll end debate on it and move it to a vote. So please go to your digital ballot and mark your vote for 7B. And while people are doing that, Gabe or Brian, any additional report?
Oh, well, we passed a resolution regarding the possibly changing the M57 route to improve the safety of 57th and 7th. The MTA has replied on that and they're amenable to it. They have to iron out some details regarding layovers and things of that nature, but it looks like some of the work we've done in committee may have some real world impacts very soon, which is very exciting. And we've also formed a e-mobility task force to come up with some solutions to all the vehicles on the road that are kind of faster than bikes and slower than cars, and hopefully provide some creative solutions to make moving around New York more safe for people using e-mobility options and people adjacent to e-mobility options.
All right, thank you very much. And Brian, anything additional or are we all good?
Nope, he covered it.
Awesome. All right, so seeing no further questions for the committee, we'll move on to budget and governmental affairs. Reshma?
Thank you, Kyle. So our committee meetings have been happening after full board for the last couple of months. So we have a resolution that was discussed at our February meeting, and it's about New York State Assembly Bill A662, which is about reforming the New York City Board of Elections. We've discussed this, I think, the last 4 meetings, but happy to address any other questions people might have on the changes. Primarily it changes the commissioners from 10 to 2 and also sets up their appointment process to be much more fair and transparent than the one that we have right now. And our committee overall has been really focused on improving access to voting in New York State is one additional part of that process.
All right, we actually have a question, Reshma. Marty, you have the floor.
Yeah, the resolution indicates reducing the number of commissioners from 10 to 2. How does that make it more transparent? It seems to put more power into 2 people.
Okay. Are you able to see me? I think.
Yeah.
It just went blank.
Oh. So, at our February meeting, we had a member of Liz Kruger's office come speak to us about this because we had similar questions about this process and the bill. And the idea is that, their members right now are all being appointed in what is, people who have earned favors in some way. It's nepotistic, and that by reducing it to 2, it would be a much more fair process because it would be done, people who are qualified, people who have served in some capacity with the Board of Elections and have familiarity with it.
That could be done with the 10 as well. I mean, the manner of choosing them can be changed, but again, putting it down to 2 people just seems, fully empowering 2 and leaving out other ideas or other opinions. Well, anyway, my opinion.
Well, I mean, I can get back to you. I can, because this was in February, I can look at my notes from that meeting. And because again, in committee, we had these questions, but we had 5 in favor of this resolution. And I can give you the details.
I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Yes.
All right, are there any further questions on this resolution?
Not questions, but Reshma, I kind of had the same.
You have to raise your hand first, please. To be recognized first. Thank you. Anne, go ahead.
Sorry, just wanted to make this really quick. Reshma, I kind of had the same question. So if you could, whatever you send to Marty, if you could send to me too, I appreciate it. I'm sorry I didn't make the meeting.
No, and I apologize because, even I myself, when I looked at the agenda, I was like, oh, wait, this is on now because it's been 2 months because of the timing. And so I should have been better prepared, but I didn't bring my notes with me.
All right, thank you. Seeing no further questions on this resolution, I'll end debate and we'll move it to a vote. So please go to your digital ballot and mark your vote for 8A. And once you have marked your vote on your digital ballot for this resolution, you may hit submit. And as a reminder, for those who are not using the digital ballot, we will ask for your vote verbally during the second roll call. All right, so while people are doing that, Reshma, do you have a report?
Yes, so we haven't had, we didn't have an April meeting, but in our March meeting, we discussed another state assembly bill, which is about the legalization of basement apartments. And we do not have a resolution on that. And Nad Kilani, vice chair, had led that discussion. But it might be an issue that we may discuss at some point again, if it doesn't move forward during the state budget process. And then I'd just like to remind everybody to, if we're getting to May, which means that October is not that far away. And if you can take a look at your budget request that you'd like to submit, and present them before we break for the summer, that would be excellent.
All right, thank you very much, Reshma. Seeing no further questions, we'll move on to Environment and Parks. Neil?
All right. Good evening, everyone, and thanks, Kyle. We had a very good meeting this month, a lot of participation from committee members, and we also had a lot of participation from members of the public. Just starting with the first thing that we went over, the patrons of Park Avenue, they came and gave a presentation about 9 sculptures that will be installed on Park Avenue between 38th and 34th. They will be there from April of this year until December of this year. And the sculptures are by New York-based artist Carol Furman. After that, we then started to discuss places where we can place trees in the district. We discussed Ralph Bunche Park, where I believe that they lost 8 to 12 trees. And so we do have some trees with the city that we're waiting for. Other possibilities are 40th and First, and we also have First Avenue and First Avenue between 37th and 38th. And we also wanted to note that it's a great idea and we want to add a lot more trees and we want to increase the canopy, but we really need to have proper maintenance and take care of the trees that we already have before we just continue to add more. Moving on, we also talked about the composting bins, and we are understanding is that we're slated to get 20 or possibly 20. We talked about places where we could place them. Places that are densely populated would likely be the best. Tudor City, Sutton Place, Stuytown, those were places that we talked about. There was the Parks report, Tudor Grove Playground right near Tudor City that is now open. It opened Tuesday, I believe it was Tuesday. Also tomorrow, Honey Locust Park will reopen. There's a opening ceremony, a reopening ceremony at 11 a.m. And I would just, I would finish that we also had a special guest panelist, John Keller, Chair of the Youth and Education Committee. He joined us and he shared his knowledge about, we'll say shutting down a street, or probably better said, creating an open street on 15th Street between 1st and 2nd Avenue in front of the old Stuyvesant High School building. The reason is that in Stuyvesant Square, and I'll say Stuyvesant Square East, there unfortunately we have found used needles. And so, and there are students from the 3 schools that are in the old Stuyvesant High School building. And so we're working to possibly close the street. Now, John was able to call in and join us because he has many years working in education, and also he has gone through the process of closing a street. He explained some of the challenges that we likely face. And so, you know, we're very grateful for him coming and joining us. And that was it.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Neil. And particular thanks to you and John for your work on Stuyvesant, because I've heard some great things from the community on that. So thank you so much for your leadership on that.
Thanks.
All right. So seeing no further questions, we'll move on to our final committee, Youth and Education.
Thank you, Kyle. And someone just pointed out that the meeting's on track to end in an hour and a half, so I'll try to be very brief. First of all, Neil commented on our working together on Stuyvesant Square Park, and I'm afraid to and dampen the mood perhaps by pointing out how difficult it is to get a street closed, but we'll move ahead with that. The issue on people's mind, the proliferation of illegal smoke shops in Manhattan and New York City. We had a very interesting and useful presentation by Phil Rumsey and Adam Stojanowski of the Governor's Office of Cannabis Management at our last meeting, and placed an extensive amount of material on the webpage, on the board's webpage, including the governor's proposal, which is under discussion, which is the point I want to make very briefly, that this is all part of the ongoing budget negotiations at this point, and no one knows what is going on. No one who knows what is going on is talking about it. So we will see where this ends up, hopefully by the end of this week, as was pointed out earlier. And I'll refer you to the materials we posted and stop there.
All right, thank you very much, John. Seeing no further questions for the committee, I'll move it to old or new business. So board members, if you have any old or new business to state, please raise your hand through Zoom. All right, Sandra, go ahead.
I'm just going to add to what Elvie mentioned about the formation of hopefully a new, I guess, subcommittee or group to work on what we're calling Neighbor to Neighbor, which is really about trying to develop an outreach program in our district for seniors. And it came up really during the pandemic when we were all locked up, but seniors really more or less locked up. And seniors really had a very difficult time in being isolated and having their needs met and so on. And I think in a lot of buildings that we're in, it's very difficult to know what's going on in people's lives. Older people are often single. They don't have the backup that they need. And so the proposal is to develop a program calling Neighbor to Neighbor, in which within a building, we institute a pilot program to organize the neighbors to reach out to seniors, more than just in crisis, but really in an ongoing way. It has to do with aging in place. It has to do with community. It has to do with a lot of things that have changed. I'll give you an example. In my building, which was pretty much a rent stabilized building, a rental building, became condo. There are some renters left, seniors, but mostly out of the flow of things for all the reasons that happen in these kinds of buildings. So to reach out and connect seniors to younger folks in the buildings and create community again, I think would be terrific. So that's the hope, that we can get a pilot going in select buildings and go from there. I spoke to Liz Kruger's office. They're completely in favor, have great ideas of how they can work with us, and it was really exciting. Hopefully there are folks interested on the community board who would like to get involved. It would be great.
All right. Thank you, Sandra. And yes, again, this is the Neighbors to Neighbors program. Sandra will be reporting to me on it. And so if you're interested in volunteering, please reach out to the board office and to myself, and we'll get you connected to Sandra. We'll also be reaching out to some of you who have expressed interest in this in the past. So don't be surprised if you get an email from me or from Sandra, because we're very excited about this, especially with the support of Senator Kruger's office and so many on this board. So keep a lookout for that.
I can also put my email in the chat. Should I do that?
If you would like to, go ahead. Yep.
Okay.
All right, Rich.
I just want to say I'd like to volunteer my building, which is a great building for this. We're about 60% single people in their 70s and 80s, and 40% younger people. And many of the older people have lived in the building since it was constructed in 1964. So I think we're a good example of the kind of building where this would make sense.
Thank you, Rich. And that sounds like our first sign up for the committee. So we'll definitely be reaching out to you for your help as well. And finally, Reshma, go ahead.
Sure. I wanted to just get back to the question that was raised earlier, if that's allowed in terms of process, just so that.
Yeah, since it's already passed, if you want to reach out one-on-one, feel free to use the
okay.
contacts to contact them.
Okay, I will do that. Okay.
Thank you, Reshma. All right. So we'll now move on to the second roll call. Steve, go ahead.
Found the mute button. Excuse me. Now on to the second roll call. Please unmute while I call out your name. Ronnie White. Mara Wong.
Present.
Matthew Weintraub.
Present.
Brian Van Nieuwenhoven.
Present.
Gabriel Turzo.
Present.
Mark Thompson.
Present.
Susan Steinberg. Hannah Singelman.
Present.
Letty Simon.
Present. You want my vote?
Give us a few seconds.
Thank you. When you're ready, just ask me.
Okay. Do I record that, or does the office?
The office will record it.
Okay.
Tell me when you're ready, Jesus.
Okay, we're ready.
Okay, it's yes on everything except 8A, and that I will abstain.
All right, 8A is abstain and yes on everything else.
Yes, in favor and everything else. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. Continuing on, Aisha Siddiqui,
Present.
Sandra Sarad, Lou Sapersky, Ann Singleman.
Here.
And Seligman, sorry.
No worries.
Larry Shire,
Here.
Matt Roberts,
Present.
Reshma Patel,
Present.
Kevin O'Keefe,
Present.
Rajesh Nayar,
Present.
Richard Mintz,
Present.
Sandra McKee,
Present.
Anton Mullner,
Present.
Jason Littman,
Present.
Sandra Leftoff, sorry.
Present, also, I gave the wrong email, just so I want, it's Gmail, not Google, which doesn't exist. Sorry, just so you'll know. That's it.
Understood, marking you as present. Abigail Cruz-Mark,
Present.
Nadeem Kalani,
Present.
John Keller,
Present.
Paige Judge, Sadie Howard, Adam Harkey,
Present.
Eric Goldberg, Jason Fromowitz,
Present.
Beatrice Tisman,
Present.
Michael Devereaux,
Present.
Stu Desser,
Present.
Jonathan Derrico,
Present.
Jim Collins, Claire Brennan,
I'm here, but not counting towards quorum because my camera is messed up. So go to the next person, I guess.
Avi Barroso,
Present.
Martin Barrett,
Present.
Neil Barclay,
Present.
Kyle Thide,
Present.
Ajid Abdul Samad.
Present.
Okay. Now reading through the votes.
Just to be clear, we don't have all the ballots, but it looks like
We don't, you're right.
Eric Goldberg, it looks like he's left, so I don't think we'll be getting a ballot from him. Paige Judge. Are you, Paige, are you looking to submit a ballot, or do you need to call out your ballot, your voting aloud?
I think let's move on. I don't think she's able to.
Okay, well then we'll close the voting and that's that.
Okay. Thank you for that. Okay, moving to the votes for resolution 1A. 30, this is adding the additional hand count one. 35 in favor, 0 opposed, 0 abstain, 0 not entitled.
Steve, the additional vote is already factored in, so.
Oh, there it is. Okay. Oh, thank you for that. All right. Correcting, that is 34 in favor, 0 opposed, 0 abstain, 0 not entitled. For resolution 4A, public safety, 33 in favor, 0 opposed, 1 abstain, 0 not entitled. For resolution 5A, that's 34 in favor, 0 opposed, 0 abstain, 0 not entitled. Resolution 5B, 34 in favor, 0 opposed, 0 abstained, 0 not entitled. Resolution passes. Sorry, forgot to include that. For resolution 7A, that's 32 in favor, 0 opposed, 2 abstained, zero not entitled. That resolution passes. Transportation resolution 7B. 34 in favor, 0 opposed, 0 abstained, 0 not entitled. Resolution passes. For resolution 8A budget, 29 in favor, 1 opposed, 4 abstained, 0 not entitled. That also passes. And that rounds out the resolution votes.
All right, thank you very much, Stephen. Well, now, if there are no objections, we will adjourn the meeting. All right, seeing no further business, we will adjourn the meeting in an hour and a half.